If you struggle with storytelling in English, if you mix the tenses when speaking and telling a story about the past, this free masterclass is for you. Enjoy and stay till the end because there's a secret tip. All right, my dear students, welcome to Storytelling Part 1. I wanted to create this with other storytelling techniques in one masterclass, but we're going to do it in parts. And this one is called the historical present. And we use this one to talk about something unexpected, specifically when telling stories. So if you struggle with mixing the times or the tenses, or sometimes you get stuck when telling a story, these tips are going to help you do this even better. So let's look at first the regular story, and then let's look at that same story, but using the historical present, which is the tense that you're going to use to be able to sound more natural and more native. So when we look at a regular story, it says, yesterday I was walking near my mom's house. That's the past tense. When suddenly a man walked towards me and slapped me in the face. Again, we see the past tense here with the ed, right? Let's mark that. Ed, right? And then we see the ed here as well, slapped me in the face. So we see a regular story. Yesterday I was walking near my mom's house when suddenly a man walked towards me and slapped me in the face. Now, before we continue to the historical present, which is the main theme of today's class, let's focus on what parts of the story receive the historical present and why. Now, linguisticamente, a story has several parts to it. We have the purpose and we have the content. Now, what's the difference? Well, the purpose is what we use to introduce a story. It's the setting, right? And in this case, it's yesterday I was walking near my mom's house. You're talking about the location. You're talking about what you were doing. That's the purpose. It's used to introduce the story. And we typically use the past tense here, right? Now, when we're going to the second part of the story, which is the content, which means the who, the what, and the why, like what happened and why it happened, that's usually the second part of the story. And we can continue using the past tense if we want to, but if you want to sound more native, if you want to avoid mixing the tenses, then in the content part, you can use the present tense. Now, how would that sound? Yesterday, I was walking near my mom's house. That's the purpose, right? When suddenly a man walks towards me and slaps me in the face. So here I'm using walks and slaps. And we're using the present tense to talk about the past in the moment of the story where something unexpected happens. You see? And this brings the listener into the story, right? Like I mentioned in the video. Now, many linguistic studies have been done about this historical present. And it's interesting because it's not, the reason it works is not just because you're using the present tense. No. The reason you're getting the listener's attention is because of the shift, the change of tense. The fact that you're not using the past tense anymore and you're using the present tense, the listener says, whoa, something's happening. Does that make sense? What makes this interesting is because of the change from the past tense to using the present tense to tell a story. That is what captures the attention of the interlocutor, the person listening to your story. And we can see a great example here in this series here, which is called Friends. Now, to give you an example of the historical present in action, we're going to watch this scene where Kramer, which is someone from Seinfeld, tells the story of what happened. Now, in this story, he talks about him going on the bus with a pinky toe. So la parte del dedo, the pinky toe is a little finger on your foot. And he has it in the frozen bag and he's on the bus. So he's taking this pinky to the hospital. And in that situation, a thief, un ladrón, gets on the bus and tries to, steal the bus. Notice how he changes from the past tense while telling the story to the present tense several times. Let's watch.
It's the medicine, all right. Well, I didn't want her pinky toe. And a street heckled Toby, she got...
What accident?
Well, after he heckled Toby, she got so upset she ran out of the building and a street sweeper ran over her foot and severed her pinky toe.
Notice all of the verbs here are in the past tense. Let's look at it again.
Out of the building and a street sweeper...
What accident?
Well, after he heckled Toby, she got so upset
She got so upset, right? That's got. That's the past tense.
She ran out of the building and a street sweeper ran over her foot.
She ran out of the building, right? That's the past tense. And a street sweeper, you know those things that clean the streets? Those big cars that sweep the machines, like, and it's cleaning the streets. It ran over her foot. That's the past tense.
And severed her pinky toe.
And severed her pinky toe. That means it cut her pinky toe.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, then after the ambulance left, I found the toe.
Again, he keeps using the past tense. Even if it's something unexpected, which means that something really, even crazier must happen later, because if he's still using the past tense, it means he hasn't gotten to the best part of the story. So, I found the toe. Right? Encontró el dedito. I found. That's still the past tense.
So I put it in a Cracker Jack box, filled it with ice, and took off for the hospital.
Filled it with ice, still the past tense, and took off to the hospital. That means he left to the hospital. Took off is another way of saying left. So I took off or I left. It's still the past tense.
You ran? No, I jumped on the bus. I told the driver, I got a toe here, buddy. Step on it.
Again, he's still using the past tense. He took the bus to the hospital.
Holy cow! Yeah. Then, all of a sudden, this guy pulls out a gun.
Okay, now he's talking in the present tense. This is the part of the story that's even crazier. He says a guy pulls out a gun, right? Pulls out is sacar. That's the present tense, not the past. He used it to shift to a different part of the story. And so that helps us understand that we can use it in two ways. We can use the historical present when something unexpected happens, like a man walks towards you and slaps you in the face. But notice too that in this story, there's like a part 1 and a part 2 and the part 3. We'll talk about the part 3. But the part 1 is with the toe that got severed, that he cut the toe with a street sweeper, right? And then part 2 of the story is now where he's on the bus and the guy pulls out a gun. So the historical present can also be used not only in unexpected situations when you're telling a story, but also when you're going into like part 2 of the story. Does that make sense? Even though it's still the same story, you're still talking about the toe and he has the toe in the bag in the bus. Now it's a second part of the story where there's a bad guy with a gun and he pulls out a gun. And so Kramer uses the present tense, the historical present, to show you, okay, now I'm going into part 2 of the story where a guy pulls out a gun. Let's watch that again.
Oh, yeah. Then, all of a sudden, this guy pulls out a gun. Well, I knew any delay's gonna cost her pinky toe, so I got out of the seat and I started walking towards him.
And now he shifted back to the past tense because he's in part 2, right? He already shifted to part 2 of the story.
He says, where do you think you're going, Cracker Jack?
Now he goes with the past tense again. And he says, dice, where do you think you're going, Cracker Jack? Like, ¿dónde vas, loco?
I says, well, I got a little prize for you, buddy. Knocked him out cold.
Knocked him out cold. He goes back to the past tense.
How'd you do that? Yeah, then everybody is screaming.
Past present tense again. Everybody is screaming, right? Oh, everybody is screaming. This is like part 3 of his story, where he already beat the guy up and everyone is screaming, the present tense.
Because the driver, he's passed out because of all the commotion.
The bus driver is passed out because of all the commotion. Again, the present tense to tell a story.
Bus is out of control.
Again, the bus is out of control. Let's look at those 3 verbs he used to talk about the past tense using the historical present.
Knocked him out cold. How could you do that? Yeah, then everybody is screaming.
Everybody is screaming.
Because the driver, he's passed out because of all the commotion. The bus is out of control.
The bus is out of control.
So I grab him by the collar, I take him out.
Again, the past tense, the present tense. I grab him by the collar. This is the collar. I grab him by the collar. Don't worry, I'm going to show everything again so you can see it.
Out of the seat, I get behind the wheel, now I'm driving the bus.
Now I'm driving the bus. Again, the present tense to talk about the past.
You're Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman. Then the mugger, he comes to and he starts choking me. So I'm fighting him off with one hand and I kept driving the bus with the other, you know?
And notice how he now shifted to the present continuous. So now I'm fighting the bad guy and I'm driving at the same time. So you can even use the present continuous con la ing. I'm driving and I'm fighting to bring the person even more into the story, right? That's like even better if you can do that. So let's watch the story again.
Pinky filled it with ice and took off her foot and severed her pinky.
What accident?
Well, after he heckled Toby, she got so upset she ran out of the building and a street sweeper ran over her foot and severed her pinky toe.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, then after the ambulance left, I found the toe. So I put it in a Cracker Jack box, filled it with ice, and took off for the hospital.
You ran?
No, I jumped on the bus. I told the driver, I got a toe here, buddy. Step on it.
Holy cow!
Yeah. Then, all of a sudden, this guy pulls out a gun. Well, I knew any delay's gonna cost her pinky toe, so I got out of the seat and I started walking towards him. He says, where do you think you're going, Cracker Jack? I says, well, I got a little prize for you, buddy. Yeah! Knocked him out cold.
How could you do that?
Yeah, then everybody is screaming. Because the driver, he's passed out because of all the commotion. The bus is out of control. So I grab him by the collar, I take him out of the seat, I get behind the wheel, now I'm driving the bus.
You're Batman.
Yeah, I am Batman. Then the mugger, he comes to and he starts choking me. So I'm fighting him off with one hand and I kept driving the bus with the other, you know?
There we go. So we see the historical present and we saw the function of it. Okay, in action. So use it when you're telling a story, when you're talking about something unexpected, or when you're shifting to like a part 2 of your story, like we saw with him. Another way you can use it is when you're summarizing a movie or a book. When you're talking about a movie you saw, try to use the historical present. So let's say Titanic. In Titanic, Jack and Rose met on the ship. They fell in love, past tense, but in the end, Jack died, past tense, when the ship sank. Right? This feels like a finished, distant event. But you can also say, when the Titanic, Jack and Rose meet on the ship, they fall in love, but in the end, Jack dies when the ship sinks. So since a movie is something that happened in the past because you saw it in the past, but you can put it on whenever you want, the historical present is also appropriate. Now, how can you put this into action? One way is to use real life stories that happen to you. Typically to you. You can also talk about someone else, but typically about you. And another way is to start explaining movie scenes. Now, a quick homework I can have for you is I'm going to leave a story in the description below in the past tense. Turn it into the historical present and send it to me directly on Instagram, and we will correct you. All right. Also, if you like this type of grammar, like, wow, historical present, in my platform for my paid students who are my private students, they have access to many of these types of grammars that we call subconscious grammar. It's a grammar that native didn't have to learn because as a kid, their mind absorbed it like a sponge. But we teach this grammar, and the guarantee is that what we have in here, these are pre-recorded courses, but it's just a support because my students get live classes with real natives who correct them. And so everything that we teach them is this kind of subconscious grammar. And they use vivid idioms, they use business English, regular English. We also have a vocab tracker to track your progress. And so that way you can see your exact progress. And it's a great way to learn. We have a community where the students can ask questions whenever they want. We see, for example, here how Jessica does her homework. And Alexandra, our native teacher, answered her question. And they're like having conversation. All of this after their live class. So you have the support and the attention from the teachers even after class. And so, yeah, you can access our pre-recorded courses here. We have a course on los tiempos, the tenses. And this is deep, deep stuff. Imagine we have 3 videos just on will. That goes to show you that will has many functions, not just to talk about the future. We teach you how to use the past tense to talk about the future, how to use the present tense to talk about the future. All of these things that you won't learn on YouTube or in traditional classes, we teach you in our course. If that's something that interests you, we have a link at the bottom. You can schedule a demo call with me, and I will see if you qualify. It's not a course for everyone. We're very selective with the people we let inside the course. You have to be intermediate or upper intermediate or advanced, usually upper intermediate and advanced, so that you can enjoy the course and also other things. So my students, I hope you enjoyed this class, and I hope to see you soon. See you next time.